Very good evening to everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Different News. Today, I have Mithun Shah with me, founder of Anabio. Well, today we are going to talk on a very important thing, particularly for women, and the fantastic innovation that Mithun and Anabio has been doing, and they are working on it. Thank you, Mithun, for accepting my invitation. And I'm so glad that you are here on my podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaggi, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so Mithun, before we go ahead with understanding how your company and you have come with this fantastic innovation of flushable sanitary pads for women, I think this is fantastic, and it's a huge problem that exists today. But before we go into all that story, uh, it would be very nice if you tell about yourself and how you actually landed up with Anabio. That would be an interesting and inspiring story to understand.
Um, uh, Where do I start? Yeah. So uh, I'm trying to figure out where do I start. So I'm a, serial entrepreneur, if I may. I failed many times before, and the only thing I ever wanted to be was an entrepreneur, even when entrepreneurship was not fashionable. So this is the way of life, I believe, for me. Uh, in terms of background, I'm a material scientist. I worked as head of research and development or product development for a US based organization. Studied, worked, lived in the US for a very long time, and kept trying different ventures, if I may. So from the very early on, it was very clear that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and try that. So that clarity was always there. Um, but what we didn't realize was the sustainability aspect of it. It was not very clear to me at the very start, but actually, when you look back, the different things that you've tried, it was all sustainability driven, innovation driven. So innovation and sustainability are very close to me and what keeps me excited. So uh, that's why uh, that's how we landed where we've landed. And the sanitary pad piece is a very interesting tidbit. It's actually a venture driven idea, if I may. I mean, one of the investors of a friend of mine mentioned this to him, saying, "Hey, have you looked at the sanitary pad space in India? Uh, it seems like uh, the adoption rate of pads in India is going up. It's low, but it's going up. So it seems like an interesting space to get in." And he asked me about it, and I had no clue about it. I was in similar industries, but not in this business, in the hygiene business, if I may. So we started looking into it, and we were quite intrigued about it. And it was just a Sunday afternoon lunch table discussion between my wife and I, and she found it pretty interesting as well. And uh, disposability was a big topic that we kept discussing over and over again. And then the output of that discussion was, we should try something on the flushable aspect. We're not sure who came up with the idea. She claims it was hers. I claim it was mine. So as long as it's in the family, I think we're all right. so, so that's where it kind of started. This is 2017, June, July 2017, and then it's been a gradual journey towards from idea to uh, getting ready to launch now in 2024.
That's great. Actually, because I was scrolling nowadays, short videos are on LinkedIn. So one very interesting video came up which was from your page, which says that, uh, probably if I'm not wrong, like it's there in Bangalore Bio Innovation Center. At the back, you find you find Comod, and probably they're demonstrating that how it is a flushable sanitary pad, and and you are actually demonstrating everything, how safe it is, and even when the slug or wastage is coming out, how it is being treated and making environment friendly. So that has been something which intrigued me actually to get in touch with you, and to be very very honest, and I thought this is amazing. I mean, this has to come up on my podcast. So that's how that's how we approached you. Thank you, Mithun, for telling the inspiration behind Anabio and with this particular product. So, but I think what you're doing is innovative, but I'm sure it has a lot of challenges. So can you share some of the prominent challenges that you have had faced, and probably you are solving them? So that would be interesting.
So the biggest challenge, if I were to say, we faced was physical products or hardware is hard. Takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money, and it gets complicated when you're talking about biotech, life sciences. Uh, the the challenge is just compound. And I compare it with a tech startup where uh, you have a challenge with the code. You spend a night or a few weeks or a weekend and you rewrite the code, and then you can beta test it again. Uh, in the physical realm, it takes months to get to the next iteration. So as a result of that, it takes a lot of time. Um, Now, if you're trying to do something that is groundbreaking, uh, uh, innovative, uh, the probability of finding resources or finding what you need locally also can be a challenge. So in our case, we had to heavily depend on uh, raw materials and suppliers and partners around the world. I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said we've run trials in over 50 different factories in 10 different cities in 10 different countries in the world. Uh, Probably, I'm probably underestimating that. A number is probably much higher than that. So going around the world, getting all this done, getting logistics arranged, and then having COVID right in the midst of all of this didn't help. But we persevered, we survived, and we're here to tell the story. So it takes time, and that's where the challenge lies for us.
Right, right, absolutely. So, because here, when you are talking about a product which is actually kind of a health, directly impacting, it has an impact on the health of an individual and also sustainability, right? So, how, and again, environment friendly. So, what is, I mean, how do you balance this area in these three aspects?
Actually, for us, that's been the easier part. And the reason
Okay.
I say that is if you, how should I put this? It's very difficult to change track midway. So you're in business, you're selling a non-sustainable product, you're a revenue generating company for 10 years, 15 years, 50 years, whatever that may be. And then you're like, okay, let's change track and now become a sustainable company. Changing the entire organization and their DNA to do that is a lot more difficult. For us, sustainability is at our core. That's what excites us. Innovation is at our core. So everything we do, we look at it with that lens. So since we didn't have to deal with the baggage of the past, it was easier for us to build everything ground up in a sustainable fashion. It's challenging, no question. It just is a little easier because we don't have the baggage of the past.
Yes, uh, that's interesting. So, so Mithun, like you, as you said that, like you have had a long path in this, and with COVID and everything. So, can you walk us through the path of bringing this kind of an product, making it market ready? So, and scaling it up. So, what is that path, and what are your vision or insights in this area?
So my view on physical products, especially if it is in the health tech, biotech, uh, hygiene kind of business, uh, unfortunately, is you need experience. It's difficult to jump in without prior experience. Uh, you can jump in, but the level of depth and innovation you can come up with would be limited in my view. You need to have that kind of an experience. So having experience is important, and then what experience does is it allows you to figure out early on what approaches you can take, right? And so two things are important. One is having a strong industry network, or knowing who to call and where to get the work done. Number one. Number two is where put this following a typical R&D process that has stage gates involved, so you're not missing anything that is crucial. And what I mean is, you're at scale up stage now, and you've forgotten to do certain critical aspects of the design development, and you get stuck. So having prior experience goes a long way. So in our case, I had the global experience. We were able to build a team that has also brought an experience. So both these things help. Now, in terms of development, we actually followed a textbook model of saying go to a concept evaluation. We built a lot of concepts. We didn't do any R&D work. In fact, we spoke to over 1,000 women, got their feedback. And the interesting tidbit is, when we spoke to about 1,000 women, not one of our potential customers said disposability was a problem. For everybody, it was, it's not soft enough, it's not absorbent enough, it's not comfortable, and a similar kind of feedback. At the end, when we would pop in the question of saying, what if we made a pad that was like toilet paper, you could touch, feel exactly like a pad, but you could flush it. And I think about 85% of the women said, this sounds exciting. We never thought it could be possible. If it is, we would love to try it. That was part of the concept evaluation phase, saying, okay, is there merit in this? Uh, so first is, you need to have conviction in your idea in the concept phase. And your customer doesn't always necessarily know what's best. Because they have some biases in their mind as well. So you have to work with them to figure out if what you have works or not. Uh, that's number one. Then we went to the design phase. Then we started looking at multiple different variations. So we took a stab at about actually two different verticals, if I may, within development. Mm. And we worked on both those verticals for the design phase. And we chose A over B. I don't want to share those details, but we chose A over B because it was the fastest way to the market. But we had done a very thorough job, so we had two options. But somewhere along the line, at scale up, A failed for us because one of the raw materials was no longer available, and we were badly stuck about 2.5 years ago. And so we went back to our design phase. We had the work done, so we could come back to that same point in about a year's time. So our design phase was very critical. We had multiple options, multiple vendors, and now we are at the scale up phase. One critical thing that we have done that is I think will differentiate us, is we do backwards thinking. In a consumer goods domain, cost is important, scale is important, right? You got if I can make a pad that's flushable but cost 1,000 rupees, great, but I may not be able to sell many. So the unit economics is important. So everything we did with the lens of, can this be made on commercially available equipment? Can it be done at scale? So everything was every idea was looked at that with that lens in mind, and that's how we crossed the design and uh, the scale up phase, and now we are at the validation phase. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's pretty much the toll gates that we've used to get to where we are today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I understand that it's a difficult path, and at every step you have to be so vigilant. And as you said, that at some point your B failed or A failed, and you have to be ready for everything. But still, I say that this is fantastic. And as you said, being a woman, I'm telling that many people might not know, and I'm being from a medical field. Disposal is a problem, because particularly when it comes to urinary tract infections and stuff like that, particularly when we are using public toilets, however hygienic they may be, but that one disposed pad, it is a kind of what to say, a focal point of infection, which we are not seeing anything. It's a fantastic sparkled toilet, but this is a very big thing. If it's really what you are doing, you we are cutting out a lot of infection contamination, which actually comes from an unknown origin, but the focal point lies there, right in the sparkled toilet. So thank you for what you're doing, actually. So that helps a lot of women. Well, so like being in the consumer market and the environment, right? So um, like as I said, I saw that video. So how are you working regarding this area, like because when you're flushing it out, and whatever the slug or extract is coming out, it goes into the ultimately to the sewage and environment. So is there any kind of special treatment that you do, or is it inbuilt in the flushable pad? I mean, if you can share, please share. I mean, I don't want to know your proprietary secrets, but yeah, that was just out of curiosity.
The two things we were very clear, three things we were very clear on at the start. Uh, it's greater flushable product, but it's useless if it does not behave well like a pad. Uh, the existing pad could use a design upgrade, but we have not gone that far. We're saying at least as good as the existing pads. That's our baseline. That's number one. Number two, uh, the process has to be very simple. It has to be very intuitive. And number three, there should be no education required. Because as a small company, we can't afford cost of education, right? And if you look at the number two and three, it's very simple. You don't need to use any additional chemical or raw material or any of that. It's as simple as you take your pad, and it's just think of me sitting on the loo, take the pad off, right? I throw it in the toilet, make sure it's in the water. Then I put the next pad on and dress myself up. So I'm giving about 30 seconds, right? 30 to 60 seconds. That's the time you need to let it sit in the water. And then you flush. It should mimic how you use a toilet paper. That's all you need to know. As long as you know that, you should be able to use it. No additional training required. This is a stunt you can perform at home. So,
Amazing.
yeah, that's as simple as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm sure, like as you said before, that you had multiple vendors and other people who also added to your expertise. So what was your, I mean, how do you see the approach of collaboration in this kind of sectors? A general question, not like just for your product. So uh, do you think that these in these kind of sustainable market ready product development, does collaboration help, or it likes makes the process more complex? It might be a silly question, but yeah, that is
No, it's
something.
Uh, so what we have found is collaborating with academia is difficult. They're a little far away from reality, at least when you talk about consumer goods, where price is very sensitive and timelines are very sensitive. So that we kind of ruled out early on. We did collaborate with a lot of entities. globally to fast track our innovation. IP is ours, ideas are ours, but we used assets from different companies. It's a collaborative effort. We have definitely done that. Where I see a bigger impact and collaboration being a very, very, very big part is in the go-to-market strategy, right? It's like you can make a very beautiful movie, but if nobody shows up to the theaters or nobody knows about the movie, it doesn't have the impact. People have not seen it. People have not enjoyed it. The same thing happens with products. You can make a great product, but if people don't know about it, they're not going to be able to buy it. They're not going to be able to have the impact. So I think this particular sector, segment, and product works very well for collaboration with various multinational companies and the government in a big way. And we have been supported by the government of Karnataka, by the central government in the form of BIRAX assistance to us. So the government has been very supportive. Now, when we go to the market, we need to see how we can leverage that as well, and also work with larger companies to spread the word and uh, grow this as a business. We're trying to figure that out. So, yeah, hopefully somebody sees this and has a much more refined idea than us and reaches out to us. We'll be happy to talk to them.
True, true. Of course, of course. I mean, you are doing fantastic job. So definitely, it has a lot of potential, and many people would be interested to. And I'll be very happy if somebody sees and they approach you, and it yeah, it scales up your product and getting into the market. That would be fantastic. So, uh, as an entrepreneur in this field, what do you see about the future trends, or what you foresee about the trends in the future in this area of sustainable, development, and particularly healthcare products that way?
So, uh, we are growing as a company, as a business, and me as a founder, and we're trying to understand us better and as we evolve, right? So, the current working idea in our minds, the way we see our business is two separate uh, railway the tracks, right? They're running in parallel to each other. One is sustainability, other is the healthcare aspect of it. So I think sustainability, you're going to keep hearing about it for a very long time before you realize actually we have shifted gear and we are more sustainable than we were 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's bound to happen. There's just no option. So it is going to happen. uh, Nobody can predict when we're going to like cross the critical threshold, but it is going to happen, and we as a company are going to try and reduce the impact of non-sustainable products like diapers and adult incontinence pads and different things. So that's one track. The other track for us is healthcare, and we are more like a consumer healthcare company. So a part of Anabio does flushable pads. Part of the one of the other verticals that we have in the company is a life sciences business, where we work on virology, microbiology, entomology, and different areas. So we have a very good view on consumer products and life sciences, and we're trying to merge or look into areas where we can merge both of these and do something in the diagnostics area. Can we use our pad as a diagnostic? That's one area that we are trying to see if we can do as version 2 of or a product number 2 within the same offering. And I think point, I wouldn't say point of care, but instant diagnostic, rapid diagnostics is a way forward for healthcare, where you can diagnose yourself uh, on various issues much earlier. So cure is also much better, easier, and faster. So that's one area where we see we will go into. And if people hearing the podcast again are interested in working on cervical cancer or any other UTIs or any of these other issues, given our access to our women consumers that we're going to have, and our life sciences practice and have an idea and want to share it with us or discuss with us, we'll be open to talk.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, just that you have so much of experience and you are working in this field, uh, some advice or suggestions for entrepreneurs who might look into a similar space of getting into consumer healthcare products, sustainability, any advice that you might have had? I mean, you can give, sorry. Yeah.
Um, so if you're an experienced professional trying to get into this domain, I would have slightly different recommendation than if you're a youngster with just out of school and you want to try something else. It's going to be very different, right? So in either case, the similarity is it's a long journey. Be prepared for the long run. It takes 10, 15 years, 10 years for a consumer goods company or any brand or a tech company to be a large company, right? For biotech, life sciences, it just add another 5 years to it. So be prepared for the long haul. Make sure your affairs are in order at home. The stress from work doesn't spill over at home or vice versa, because it doesn't work otherwise. If you cannot survive for that long. So financially, you got to take care of your affairs. If you're young, great. The level of responsibility is much lower, right? Experience is also lower, but level of responsibility is lower. It's a great time to start. I would say uh, today is the best time to ever start a startup in the history of mankind. So go for it. Figure out the fastest way to the market. And if you have a good product that can get to the market sooner, the probability of finding angel investment, seed investment is much higher, and taking that route is a good option. The other two strong points I would say is uh, across the country, and especially in Karnataka, there's a lot of incubation centers and all of that. So there's a lot of access to equipment available. You're not alone in that. So it's not difficult to start up. And the last thing I would say, there's not sufficient government funding available, but there is some government funding available as well. So uh, for a good idea and a good team or a good founder, it's not that difficult. If you're patient, you can crack it and get to an MVP sooner than you can think. So give it a shot, please.
Thank you, Mithun. It was very inspiring and it was fantastic knowing your journey and the ideas that you have with Anabio and the kind of work. I'm sure this will definitely take up, and very soon we will. Along with other products, we will see flushable sanitary pads flushing, flashing on the stores, and that's the time definitely I would be your customer for that. so and thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
And for the viewers, please visit anabio.in. You can see a demo video of the product as well. So if you're curious how it works, please take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody wants to connect to you, Mithun, for like for any other purpose, like with business or whatever, so where can they reach? If you can just share that if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm available on LinkedIn, Mithun Shah. Please look me up on LinkedIn. Mithun.shah@anabio.in is my email address. You can reach out to me on that as well, please, and I'll be happy to respond.
Thank you, Mithun. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and hopefully this helps our community out.
Absolutely. It will.
Thank you.